I think we've pretty much covered the Photoshop interface. I want to move along here now. I want to show you how to go about creating brand new blank Photoshop documents. Oftentimes, you'll start with an existing image, perhaps something that you've pulled off of a digital camera, or maybe something that you've sourced from the web. Other times, you'll create something from complete scratch, creating a new blank canvas or a new blank document inside Photoshop. Just before I show you how to do this though, just a very quick mention. Notice that I reset my workspace back to the default workspace, just to have sort of a stable starting point here myself, so I'm not using anything too crazy and wacky here on you. All right, let's go and create a new blank file. How do we do it? It's really easy stuff. Head to your File menu up at the top and then down to New. There's the good old keyboard shortcut Control or Command N on your keyboard, and that'll bring you into the New Document dialog box. Now, there's actually a lot going on inside this dialog box. Let me show you the areas of this dialog box that I focus on, and then maybe what I'll do is I'll show you some further in-depth options that we have available here. Here's what I focus on. I focus on the width and the height, and the unit of measurement that I'm setting or using for the width and height, and the resolution, and possibly the color mode, again, depending on what I'm doing, and the OK button. That's the other thing I think about. That's about it. That's really all I focus on. So for instance, perhaps I'm going to be creating, maybe it's something for the web, right? I mentioned earlier that I do a lot of web work. So maybe it's going to be some kind of a banner graphic or a header graphic for a website, something like this, right? So I come into the width field and I type in 960, but I don't want 960 inches. I want 960 pixels. So I'm going to flip over to pixels. Notice that when I switch the unit of measurement for width, the unit of measurement for height also changes, which is very handy. So let's say 960 by, I don't know, maybe 50 pixels, something like this, right? So that's what I'm after. So I come in, I hammer in the values that I want, I make sure that unit of measurement is set properly. The resolution, at least for web design, is just fine at 72. But 72 what? Well, it's actually 72 pixels per inch. That's how we measure resolution on screen. Okay, and later on we'll get into this in a little bit more detail. That's pretty much it. The color mode RGB, because this is going to be a web job, I'm going to stick with RGB. If you're not sure what that is, it stands for red, green, blue. It's the color space or the color mode that we're going to be using whenever we're designing something for the screen, like a website. Alternatively, you could go CMYK if you're creating a print job. All right, those are pretty much myself, the two that I work with. Sometimes I do get a little bit more advanced with lab color, but not often. Okay, so that's kind of the down and dirty. I set up those options. Everything looks great. I click on OK and I start my work. But as mentioned, we do have some additional options, some deeper settings that we can dig into in this dialog box. Let's just take a quick moment and explore them here. Notice we have this preset drop-down menu. So what I could do, for instance, is I could come into the web presets. Go ahead and choose that guy, web, from this presets drop-down menu. And then what happens is this size drop-down menu ungrays, it becomes available, and I can go and choose a preset web size. The default is 800 by 600. I could go 1024 by 768. These are all monitor resolutions, by the way, for building an entire web layout if you wanted to. Or down below, we have some standard banner advertising sizes: medium rectangle, rectangle, leaderboard, the wide skyscraper, and so on. So you could choose any one of these if you wanted to. If I wanted to create a leaderboard ad, I could choose that guy. And then the dimensions and the resolution set themselves inside the width, height, and resolution fields, right? Or maybe I'm creating a print job. So I could head back to this presets drop-down menu, and perhaps I could go US paper, something like this, and then I would choose my size, letter size, legal, or tabloid. So let's stick with letter, 8.5 by 11. Notice the resolution now is 300. That's the standard or the default resolution for the world of print. Notice too, down towards the bottom, the advanced area sprung to life. In the world of print, setting up your color profile is pretty darn important. As far as the pixel aspect ratio, all that is setting the size, if you will, of your pixels. Now, typically you're going to use square pixels unless you're getting into film and video editing. I want to show you one more extremely cool trick just while it springs to mind here. And this is something that we can do throughout all sorts of different dialog boxes here inside Photoshop. What I'd like you to do is try holding down your Option key if you're a Mac user, or the Alt key on the Windows side. And notice that when we're holding down Alt or Option, the Cancel button changes to a Reset button. Notice that? Try letting go of Alt or Option and you get your Cancel button back. Isn't that cool? So it's a toggle. So in other words, what I can do is I can reset all of the settings inside this dialog box if I want to take me all the way back to where you and I had started, which was the default Photoshop size 5:7 or 7:5, depending on how you're looking at it, 72. Holding down Alt or Option resets a dialog box, typically inside Photoshop. All right, so let's go with the defaults here. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And then, alas, we wind up with the most intimidating thing in the world of design, the blank canvas.